Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a really fascinating, highly structured journey. We are going to be exploring the teachings and writings of Xuefeng, the guide of life genuine. Specifically, we're unpacking a piece titled Living in Accordance with Our Nature. Now, whether you're already familiar with Life Genuine's teachings, or you're just inherently curious about the mechanics of human freedom, this text presents a really striking framework. It completely challenges how we view our societal bonds and, ultimately, our human potential. So, we're going to break down his exact arguments, piece by piece, to map out his unique perspective. Let's get into it. Okay, so to truly grasp Xuefeng's entire worldview, we absolutely have to start with one massive core definition: the nature of origin. According to Xuefeng, this is the original characteristic that the greatest creator gives to each life. He argues that living in accordance with this specific nature is literally the only way to live out your true colors. If you don't, well, he says your life will essentially be lived in vain, and you completely miss the creator's intention. So understanding and actually returning to this baseline is the absolute highest priority for a human being. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 5 key areas. 1. Defining our true nature. 2. The invisible social shackles. 3. The burden of survival. 4. Elevating levels of life. And finally, 5. How to follow your nature. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Defining Our True Nature, Breaking the Tragedy. Notice the sheer weight of that word there, tragedy. Xuefeng's foundational premise is that we aren't just free-floating entities. We are complex, incredibly entangled parts of a society. And because our words and our deeds are constantly restricted by external factors, our true inner desires get deeply suppressed by reality. The text argues that because we can't get what we really yearn for, we actually become slaves to the factors around us, rather than acting as the masters of our own lives. And here's the kicker. If you never break through those shackles, Xuefeng states your entire existence just plays out as a tragedy. Which, naturally leads us to ask the big question. What exactly are these factors? What are these specific chains that are restricting our nature so profoundly? That brings us right into Section 2, the invisible social shackles, specifically marriage, culture, and the state. Xuefeng points out a really massive network of relational and societal factors. We're talking parents, children, marriage, your siblings, the broader culture, social waves, corporate or religious groups you belong to, and, of course, the government. He argues that absolutely all factors that relate to you in some way restrict the blooming of your true nature. Basically, you are constantly compromising your nature of origin just to accommodate this giant web of connections. And he actually illustrates this point brilliantly using a super relatable example, marriage. Xuefeng writes that a single person has free will, right? If you want to sit by the beach entirely alone all Sunday, you can. If you want to eat steamed buns for dinner every single day, you just do it. But the exact moment you enter into marriage, you become an entity with a mixed nature. Your free nature is instantly restricted. You have to consider your partner's emotions, their requirements, their daily habits. According to Xuefeng, in this dynamic, you are no longer yourself. You can no longer find yourself. You basically become this mixture of yourself and the other person. Then there's the invisible control of culture. Xuefeng refers to it almost as an entity, a cultural devil, as he puts it, lurking in our values that invisibly controls our horizons and actions. He uses a very specific example here from Chinese culture, the deep-seated drive to return to one's roots and glorify ancestors. He argues that this cultural programming is just so incredibly strong that even overseas Chinese, who have been scattered globally for generations, often still view themselves as mere guests in foreign lands, rather than treating those new lands as their true homes to build. They buy real estate back in their homeland, their thinking goes in circles, and as he so vividly puts it, they cannot escape the Egypt of the spirit. It's honestly a fascinating lens on how deeply ingrained cultural narratives restrict our individual's psychological freedom. Now, beyond culture, there is the state. As citizens, we bear the restrictions of our countries. Xuefeng notes that the state's fundamental rule is you are only allowed to behave properly, and you are not allowed to be unruly in words and deeds. He does make a distinction here between types of states, noting that democratic states offer a bit more freedom and a few more choices. However, in autocratic states, he observes that human nature is basically completely suppressed, pointing out, from his perspective, that even simply reposting an article you like on WeChat can be banned or lead to jail time. For him, the mere existence of state control makes it impossible to fully live out your nature. Moving on to Section 3, the burden of survival. Basically, working for the machine. Because look, even if you somehow manage to perfectly navigate culture and marriage, Xuefeng points out the stark economic reality of human life. If you are working for survival, you have zero freedom. It doesn't matter if you work for the state, if you're earning a wage for a private boss, or if you're just endlessly fighting to secure a good future for your kids. If your daily existence is entirely defined by running around to survive, you are bound by necessity. And a person bound by necessity, according to Xuefeng, is fundamentally not a free person, and therefore they absolutely cannot follow their true nature. Which brings us to Section 4, Elevating Levels of Life. We're looking beyond the human realm now. Xuefeng categorizes existence into distinct levels of life. While animals, like pigs, exist on a base level, humans, in his view, are still inherently bound by family, country, culture, and society. So what's the goal? The ultimate goal is to sublimate our life quality to the highest level, the level of celestial beings and Buddhas. These are entities that are completely free from human constraints and perfectly follow their nature. Xuefeng teaches that the entire reason we should strive to follow our true nature is precisely to elevate ourselves out of that bound human state so we can finally live with absolute freedom. Okay, so the theory is crystal clear, the restrictions are identified, but the vital million-dollar question remains, how do we actually follow our nature in practice while still living in this physical world? Let's get into the practical side of things with Section 5, How to Follow Your Nature. This is the path to liberation. Xuefeng breaks this down into a really pragmatic sequence. Step 1 is very direct. Throw away all the things that restrict your nature in reality. Just cut the physical or social cords. But he readily acknowledges that doing that is often impossible right away. So he gives us Step 2. If you can't throw them away in reality, you must actively throw them away in your consciousness first. You have to mentally sever the attachment. And then, Step 3. Gradually, bit by bit, you physically and mentally detach. It's a deliberate process of systematic unbinding. And this actually connects beautifully to some ancient classical wisdom. Xuefeng anchors his whole method in this profound quote from Lao Tzu's Tao teaching. While the student of worldly knowledge is always trying to add things, learning day by day, accumulating status, hoarding wealth, the student of the Tao aims at losing day by day. By continually losing your attachments, losing your societal expectations, and shedding your cultural conditioning, you eventually reach a state of absolute freedom, or laissez-faire. To make this hyper-specific, Xuefeng provides a crystal-clear list of what we should not lust for if we actually want this freedom: money, power, fame, family, ancestral glory, your country, or any organization. By completely letting go of the desperate pursuit of these societal markers, you clear up the space to become obsessed with only two things: what you genuinely like and what you are naturally good at, because that is exactly where your true nature lives. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking, and Xuefeng addresses it head-on. Is this difficult? His response is wonderfully blunt. Of course it's difficult. He notes that if detaching from all these profound societal structures wasn't incredibly hard, well, there would already be celestial beings and Buddhas walking everywhere. If it wasn't difficult, the earth would have already become a paradise. The extreme difficulty of this is exactly why so few people ever escape the tragedy we discussed back in Section 1. Throughout this explainer, we've seen how Xuefeng meticulously deconstructs the societal cages we live in and charts a rigorous step-by-step path toward absolute, unbridled personal nature. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Look closely at your own life through this lens. What is the heaviest societal shackle holding back your true nature today?